Welcome back, everybody. A lot of interesting cases on the docket right now, and joining us to help break them down, Mail Bartlett, former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit in the Westchester DA's office, and now an attorney. It is all right, handling a lot of high-profile cases we'll be getting to. And first up here, let's talk about the Gilgo Beach case. It's been nearly a year since police unearthed the skeletal remains of Shannon Gilbert. She, a prostitute who went missing at Gilgo Beach, a deserted strip of land on Long Island. The discovery of her body tipped off a wider investigation that eventually turned up a burial site where 9 other bodies were found. We've discussed this case at length here on this show, and many questions obviously still remain about this unsolved mystery. Police believe the site could have been a dumping ground for one or even more serial killers, but police say Gilbert's death not linked to the others, alleging she died accidentally. Well, that claim, however, has not stopped Shannon's mom, Mary, from filing a wrongful death lawsuit against Dr. C. Peter Hackett, insisting that he is at least partially to blame for her daughter's death. Last April, the doctor swore up and down he'd never even heard of Gilbert till a police dog searching for her found the first of the 10 bodies. Gilbert's mother thinks he knows more and wants to get to the bottom of it.
If he can lie about something like that, imagine what else he's capable of.
Now, the lawsuit alleges the doctor was negligent when he administered unknown drugs to Shannon Gilbert and then released her into the night. On the night that she passed, Gilbert reportedly fled the home of someone who had paid her for sex and ended up knocking on the doctor's door. He then allegedly treated her with medication before releasing her to her driver. And on that night, Gilbert's mom claims she got a disturbing phone call from Dr. Hackett.
He said that she was there, that he had her, he was taking care of her, but a man named Michael came and picked her up. Do I know where Shannon is? Is she home? All
right, May, let me bring you on this. Negligence here. Is this a tough standard to prove in this particular case?
Not really. I think that negligence is one of the easier standards to prove, and what you have to prove is that basically the doctor acted in a manner which was not reasonable, and it really brings you back even to the situation involving Michael Jackson. If you're prescribing medication for someone that you think is being abused, and or if you're simply giving medication to a person and putting them into harm's way, then you can establish negligence that way.
So even if he wasn't her personal physician, she just knocked on the door, he assumes the role of physician once he administers medicine?
Well, if he's not her personal physician, I would even think that sometimes that may make things even worse, because he doesn't know her medical history, doesn't have a background, doesn't know what allergies she may have or how that medication may interact with her body. And then to not have any opportunity to have that information and to put her into harm's way, essentially, by just releasing her is a problem.
And just a sidebar, you worked in a DA's office. This was is a national story, all but forgotten. But talking about it, the disagreement is 1 or 2, but serial killer and the dumping, and they still haven't at least a tangible lead that they've shared with us right now. A little surprised, not more movement in this case?
Well, these cases are very difficult to solve, because once you have a cold case, you really do need a lot of information, and things have to fall into place perfectly. You're really in a position where you're trying to hopefully find some evidence of forensic value, and you have to hope that that has not been contaminated, or that it hasn't basically, in some cases, absolutely need a significant break.
All right, let's talk about another case in the headlines, and this is one that catalyzed the missing children's movement, if you remember. This, the first child that wound up on a milk carton. The Etan Patz case remained stagnant for decades until this past summer, when all of a sudden there was a surprise break in the case that led authorities to Pedro Hernandez. Hernandez, the man charged in killing Patz in 1979, appeared in court on Thursday. Pedro Hernandez was in court for a brief proceeding, and the DA, Harvey Fishbein, says that he'll be entering a not guilty plea. Meanwhile, Hernandez is being held without bail. He was indicted Wednesday on murder and kidnapping charges following a lengthy investigation after his arrest this past May. Authorities say he admitted killing the 6-year-old Etan Patz, and Fishbein says Hernandez, schizophrenic and prone to hallucinations. He said any statements made by Hernandez not reliable and considered false confessions. Manhattan DA's office says prosecutors do not believe Hernandez's confession is the product of mental illness. As we know here, Etan's body was never found. He vanished while walking to his school bus stop, and it was a case that riveted the nation. If there are takeaways from this case, beyond the historical about the missing children, confessions, when you're dealing with someone unstable, we've already had a couple twists just in this case alone with this. What should the public know about the reliability or lack thereof when you're dealing with a troubled person and they're confessing?
The reliability of confessions is highly questionable, and you can look, the New York State Bar Association actually commissioned a report where they suggested that every interrogation should be videotaped where possible, and that is to give us a better idea of the reliability, the circumstances, the state of mind of the individual being interrogated. And it brings back a case of an individual, Michael Crow, who was a teenager and charged with killing his sister. And later it was learned that the sister was not killed by him, but by another person. And when people are under stress, someone who's not mentally ill can find themselves saying things that are not accurate. And that's one of the reasons why there's some question about the effectiveness of torture. But you also can look at cases very close to home. You look at Jeffrey Descovich. Jeffrey Descovich was convicted of a rape and a murder, which we now know he did not commit.
26, how many years?
He spent, I believe he was 16 or 17 at the time, and spent 16, 17 years in prison, and was exonerated because DNA came back to show that, number one, he was not the person, and number two, it actually led to the actual killer, who had, unfortunately, gone on to kill another person in the interim. So it makes you wonder that these cases, they're extremely difficult cases, and for an individual who is mentally ill, it would be even more troubling to me to rely solely on that confession as the basis for an indictment.
Stay with me. When we come back, everyone, we have a couple high-profile cases that our guest here directly involved with. We'll touch on those after this.